Ending a relationship isn't about failure. It's about choosing peace over pain. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for both of you is to let go. You have to be strong enough to walk away from what's hurting you. The hardest part of leaving is the hope that things could have been different. Knowing when to let go is a skill only gained through experience. Love is about letting each other grow, and sometimes that means growing apart. It's okay to walk away from someone you once loved if it means you're choosing yourself. You deserve peace, not just the illusion of love. The moment you let go, the weight on your heart becomes lighter. Love doesn't always mean staying. Sometimes it's about letting someone go so they can grow. True strength comes from knowing when to walk away and start fresh. It's okay to leave behind what no longer serves your growth and happiness. Sometimes you have to break away to build something better. Letting go is never easy, but staying in a toxic situation is far harder. No one can move forward if they're always looking back. The hardest part isn't leaving, it's having the courage to do so. Saying goodbye is not a reflection of love lost, but of wisdom gained. In relationships, sometimes the best decision is the one that brings you peace, even if it means letting go. Leaving someone isn't a reflection of what they did wrong. It's about you choosing to take care of yourself. It's not always about the end, but about what begins after the end. You deserve a love that feels easy, not one that requires constant struggle. Moving on isn't forgetting, it's choosing to move forward. The hardest part about leaving someone is realizing that love isn't enough to make things work. Sometimes we have to break apart to heal. Walking away from someone who no longer fits in your life is one of the most empowering things you can do. It's okay to outgrow a relationship. Growth is a sign of strength, not failure. Ending a relationship is not the end of love. It's the beginning of loving yourself more. The hardest part of walking away is trusting that the right things are waiting for you. Not every goodbye means the end of a story. Sometimes it's the beginning of a new chapter. The end of one relationship often marks the beginning of your journey to self-love and growth. You don't have to stay in a relationship to prove your worth. You prove it by walking away when it's time. True love isn't about holding on. It's about knowing when to let go. The most painful part of ending a relationship is knowing you might have given it all you could. You can't heal if you're still holding on to someone who's already let you go. Moving on isn't about forgetting. It's about accepting that things weren't meant to be. Letting go doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you care enough to walk away when things aren't right. Leaving doesn't mean you give up on love. It means you refuse to stay in a place that isn't healthy. Sometimes the only way to keep the love alive is to set it free. You can't grow if you keep holding on to what's holding you back. The end of a relationship doesn't erase the good memories, it just clears the way for better ones. Healing is a journey that begins when you choose to let go of what's hurting you. Leaving is hard, but it's the first step toward finding your own happiness again. Sometimes we have to let go, even if we're not ready to find something better. Love isn't meant to be a burden, and sometimes leaving is the best way to find peace. Sometimes you need to let go so that you can find the person you're really meant to be. The best way to find closure is by giving yourself permission to move on. You can't move forward if you're still living in the past. Sometimes the hardest decision you make is the one that gives you peace in the long run. When you stop holding on to the past, you make room for a brighter future. Ending a relationship is never easy, but it can be the beginning of something far better. Sometimes walking away is the only way to show love to both yourself and the other person. You deserve a life that brings you joy, not one that forces you to stay in pain. Letting go doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise enough to choose what's best for you. Sometimes love isn't enough to keep things together, but it's enough to give you the strength to walk away. Walking away isn't about giving up. It's about realizing you deserve better. You can love someone, but that doesn't mean you have to sacrifice your happiness. Sometimes letting go is the only way to set yourself free. The hardest part is not leaving, it's letting go of the hope that things will change. Ending things doesn't mean there's no love. It just means it's time to love yourself more. Sometimes love is not enough to make things work, but it's enough to give you the courage to let go. Sometimes the hardest part isn't letting go, but learning to move on. The silence between us is louder than any argument we could ever have. In love, it's not always about holding on, but knowing when to let go. The hardest decisions are often the ones we need to make for our own peace. Ending a chapter doesn't mean the story is over. It just means it's time for a new one. Sometimes the best way to find yourself is to let go of someone you love. It's not the goodbye that hurts. It's the silence after. Healing begins when you stop holding on to what's hurting you. Closure isn't always something the other person can give you. Sometimes you have to create it yourself. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It just means you care about yourself enough to move on. Sometimes the right choice is the hardest choice, but it's the one that sets you free. You can love someone and still know they're not meant for you. There's no shame in ending something that's not serving you anymore. Parting ways isn't a failure, it's a step toward growth and understanding. Letting go of someone doesn't mean you didn't love them, it means you love yourself more. Sometimes the best way to love someone is by setting them free. Closure isn't always an event. Sometimes it's a feeling of release. Ending things doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're choosing to move forward. Saying goodbye isn't always about the end of a relationship. It's about the start of a new journey. There comes a time when you need to choose your own peace over the comfort of the familiar. Ending a relationship doesn't erase the love that was once shared. Sometimes letting go is the most loving thing you can do for both yourself and them. You can't heal while holding on to the past. Sometimes we need to leave behind what we thought we wanted to make room for what we truly need. The pain of holding on is far greater than the pain of letting go. Sometimes we don't choose to leave, we simply choose to move forward. Moving on is never easy, but it's necessary for growth. The end of a relationship isn't the end of love. It's just a different kind of love. Growth happens when you step out of your comfort zone, even if it means walking away from someone you care about. Letting go doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're making room for something better. True love doesn't always mean staying. Sometimes it means knowing when to part ways. The hardest thing about leaving someone is knowing that you won't be there for them anymore. There's nothing wrong with outgrowing someone. It's a sign of personal evolution. You never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. Letting go of a relationship that's no longer serving you is the most courageous thing you can do. Sometimes the hardest part of moving on is accepting that it's okay to leave. Love is about finding happiness together, not sacrificing your own happiness for someone else. It's better to end things on your own terms than to keep holding on to something that's already broken. The truth is, sometimes love just isn't enough to make a relationship work. When you walk away, it's not because you don't care, it's because you care about your own well-being. Leaving a relationship doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're wise enough to know when to let go. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is set someone free. The hardest part of ending a relationship is the uncertainty of the future, but it's also the most liberating. It's not about losing someone, it's about gaining your own freedom. Moving on isn't forgetting, it's about finding peace in the present moment. Every ending is the beginning of something new. Love isn't about possession, it's about freedom to grow and evolve together or apart. Leaving someone you love doesn't make you cold hearted, it makes you courageous. The strongest people are those who can walk away from what no longer serves them. You can't change the past, but you can create a new future for yourself. Parting ways is not a reflection of failure, it's a reflection of the courage to face what's best for both. Sometimes you have to walk away from what's familiar to find what's meant for you. It's not that I don't care, it's that I love myself too much to stay in a place that isn't right. Every step away from something toxic is a step closer to healing. Sometimes the hardest goodbye is the one you never saw coming. Moving on from someone doesn't erase the good times. It just means you're ready for new ones. Sometimes you have to let go of someone to make space for someone better. The end of one relationship is just the beginning of your own self-discovery. A relationship doesn't define you, and leaving one doesn't diminish your worth. Letting go is a sign of strength, not weakness.